Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Ask WEP. And today, this is a much anticipated, much asked session on ONDC. For those who are joining us again, welcome back. For those who are joining us for the first time, WEP is basically an initiative to get us to interact with industry experts, veterans, frontier technology, and learn about ways that women entrepreneurs like us can get on the platform faster, better. And easier. So with us today is the Chief Business Officer of ONDC, Mr. Shireesh Joshi. ONDC is, of course, the Open Network for Digital Commerce, and he's responsible for expanding the network in terms of participants and domains. Previously, he's held roles with Procter Gamble, PepsiCo, Airtel, and Godrej, where he's managed multiple brands across geographies and market positions, and simultaneously and worked in business across India, China, and South Asia, with over 30 years of delivering excellence across organizations. An industry and function leader, he often speaks at industry conferences, serves on various marketing award juries, and he's an alumni of IIT Kanpur and IIM Bank. Please join me in welcoming him. So as our format today will be, Shireesh will take us through all the questions that you've sent in, and then for the uninitiated, we'll still try and answer some at the end of that. So over to you, Shireesh, and welcome.
Right. Thank you, Sanjana, and thank you for inviting me here and the opportunity to share what is exciting news for anybody who makes anything today. Whether you are a manufacturer, whether you are a retailer, whether you're a craftsman, in whatever fashion you have something to sell, now there is an opportunity that I think will be worthwhile understanding. Let me begin at the beginning. For those who may have heard the term ONDC, so ONDC is a project that has been set up to step change e-commerce penetration. In fact, it was created at the first wave of the pandemic back in 2020. That the idea that if you lock down 1 billion people, how do they access food? How do they access their necessities when you cannot physically walk into a shop? And so it was that question that has led to the genesis of ONDC a year and a half later. And we are where we are today. And the reason for that issue was that in India, even today, 3 years later, e-commerce penetration is only 6 to 7%. It was only 2% back then. So it has tripled, but tripled still means only about 6-7%. Less than 1% of sellers are digitally capable. And even the 6 to 7% penetration is largely in big urban centers. So the contribution of rural areas or smaller tier towns to e-commerce is very, very small. So e-commerce for India is a very niche activity. It's very, very limited in its geographical reach. Now, some of the things that we don't readily think of, we think of e-commerce as convenient, but e-commerce also comes with challenges. One is that for a seller, whichever kind of seller, the options that you have for selling are actually very limited because any seller wants to come onto e-commerce to access millions of buyers. So if you're a restaurant, you really have only a couple of applications where you can expect millions of people ordering food. Or if you're a taxi driver, you really have only a couple of applications where you can expect millions of riders. Or if you're making, let's say, products for the home, then again, only a couple of applications where you can really expect a large scale universe of shoppers. So whichever category of or sector you come from, your actual choices to sell online are actually very limited. Then these choices come with their own terms and conditions. So as a seller, you might send the right product to the right customer in time, and yet the customer could turn around and say, no, I've changed my mind, or this is different, or for whatever reason, send it back. And the platform rules might require you to take it back and also pay for the second journey. And if it is a replacement, not a return, then there's a third journey you have to pay for. There is commission to be paid for, or the time that you have to wait to get your money. So financially, being part of e-commerce, while it might get you access to a large pool of customers, financially, it can be very, very difficult, especially for small manufacturers, small industries, and retailers. There are ways to do e-commerce outside of these e-commerce platforms, but then like you can create your own website or your own shopfront. There are many shopfront applications also, but then discoverability is a challenge, and you have to spend a lot of money to attract traffic and keep getting traffic repeatedly. And if you're in a product category where consumers don't frequently shop, then that becomes even more expensive. So one way or the other, while e-commerce holds promise, it's not ideal in some way or the other. So what ONDC is looking to do is create a new way of doing e-commerce. Now, often we get referred to as a platform, We are actually not a platform, we are a network. And today, I hope to explain what the difference is. A platform is where the buyer and the seller both are in the same application. So when you are in, let's say, one application for ordering food, you can't order from restaurant from another application. Can the moderators please mute the other microphones? I think someone else.
Yeah, I'm request. Yeah, done.
Yeah, thank you. So if you are on a one, let's say, food ordering platform, you can't order from restaurants who are actually registered on the other platform. Or if you are on one taxi hailing application, then you can't book a taxi which is on the other application. Or if you're on one e-commerce platform to order products for home, you can't buy from sellers which are registered on the other one. So all e-commerce today is a platform where buyers and sellers both have to be registered in that platform for you to be able to transact. And that's a given, not just in India, anywhere in the world. And part of the behavior, part of the market practices, and also part of the market structure, which is having only one or two significant players, is actually an outcome of the fact that it's a closed system, that one party does everything. Now, that's the platform way of e-commerce. That's how all e-commerce is anywhere in the world. That's how e-commerce we have known it. The two pieces of information on the slide, the two principles, is what makes ONDC different from all other e-commerce, which makes it a network way of doing e-commerce. And the two principles are, first, unbundling, which means all the activities that are required for e-commerce are now not done by one party, but they will be done by different parties. So different people will contribute to different parts. And then you have interoperability. So there is a way by which they can all be combined to still deliver you a final solution. Now, whenever we talk about unbundling for e-commerce, all the audiences we present to get a little bit nervous because they've known e-commerce works very well as a bundled entity, and therefore it's very reliable, very convenient, very trustworthy. And suddenly if you unbundle, things are going to fall apart. Now, let me reassure you, first of all, one, it doesn't. We are clocking 3 million orders a month, so we know it works. But more importantly, in so many other walks of our life, we actually live an unbundled world. And thank God we do that. Right? So imagine if you had to transfer money to somebody and you had to open a bank account in the bank that the other party has money. And each time you have to pay somebody, you have to keep opening an account in those banks, right? Because if it was not interoperable and it was not unbundled, then both parties would have to have an account in the same bank. Thank God we don't do that. You can send money from any bank to any bank. So payments have always been unbundled. In the old days, it was a check. I could write a check on my bank and you could deposit in your bank. I didn't have to get a check issued from your bank to pay you. Right? So it was always unbundled, interoperable, and that's a good thing. If you think about every vehicle, no vehicle manufacturer makes their own tires. Right? So you have one set of brands and companies that make vehicles and a completely different set of companies that make tires. Why? Because they are specialists and they can make tires better and more cost effectively than if somebody else who's never made them to start making it, no matter how big. Right? Look at all the business process outsourcing that India is famous for. Why does it work? Because companies recognize that certain activities are better given to a party outside because they can do it better. They can also do it more cost efficiently. So companies will outsource customer care, they will outsource distribution services, they will outsource payroll, because unbundling makes sense. So you get the best party to do the best activity and you bring it all together, and that's how the solution gets created. That's how we do in our life everywhere else except e-commerce. So first, be assured that unbundling is actually very common. It's just that we've not seen it in e-commerce. And now that ONDC has been in practice for almost a year, and we've seen it even in e-commerce, we've demonstrated that unbundling works even in e-commerce. Now, to make it work together, when you have different parties doing different activities, you need a way to connect them. And that's where the interoperability comes in. Now, to create that interoperability requires a language or a protocol. And that's what we have done. So one very common example of protocol all of us experience every day is email. When we send an email to somebody, we follow a protocol. The email address, for example, must be something at something dot something. That's one example of the email protocol. That's the structure an email address must follow. But we don't care what the software the other party is using. So I might be on Gmail, the other party might be on Outlook, or I'm on Outlook, the other party is on Yahoo, or whatever else. So what the email software is does not matter, because all those software have the same protocol. They're all connected to the internet. Therefore, anybody can send email to anybody without wondering whether you're on the same software or not. Now, it's the same principle, which is to create a communication language for a particular purpose. In this case, the purpose is commerce. So in commerce, what are the activities? You search. So there should be a way to send a search request and a way to respond to a search request. After I have searched, I must have a way of confirming an order. So there must be a way to communicate confirmation and receive confirmation, right? So commercial transaction has a certain sequence of information flow and commands that must go. That communication protocol is what ONDC has built. Right? So if you say what exactly is ONDC, ONDC is fundamentally only a communication protocol and a registry. Right? Whenever we go onto the internet, we choose a browser, and in the browser we type a URL, and usually it will begin with HTTPS something. HTTPS is the internet protocol. And the internet also has a registry where all the website addresses are stored. So whenever you type that address, your browser knows which IP address to pull out and which server to go to pull that information. So the protocol allows digital software to talk to each other. So we as humans use a browser. The browser uses the protocol to get the right information from another digital web host where another human being has put their information or their services or their content. Right? So that's how the system works. So ONDC is fundamentally only a protocol and a registry. That's all it is. Now, what does it do? Every platform, every e-commerce platform has many activities which we can broadly group into three kinds. One is the buyer-facing activities where the buyer searches for a product, builds a cart, makes payment. That's what we do when we shop. The sellers who are in that same application or that same platform also have a portal, but that looks a little bit different. That's where they upload their catalog. That's where they upload their inventory. That's where they will accept their orders, manage changes to orders like a return cancellation. That's the seller interface. And then finally, if it's a physical product that is being taken from the seller's location to the buyer's location, there is an order fulfillment or delivery. So in all platforms, the activities can be broken up into broadly three groups. When we go to another platform, we will see the same set of activities. They're all connected. In each of these platforms, they're connected through technology. So when we as a shopper search, the software looks at all the catalogs that are registered, identifies what matches and presents them to us in a easy and friendly format. Right? That's what the technology is doing. So each of these platforms has their own technology, but because these technologies are proprietary, these platforms don't talk to each other, which is why as a buyer on one, you cannot buy from a seller on another platform. Right? So these platforms are closed universes, and you have to be, both parties have to be in that same platform in order to be able to transact. That's today's structure. Now, what changes once ONDC comes in is that now you have different parties who will do different activities. So for example, you could have one party doing the buyer side activity. You can have another party that does the seller side activity. You can have a third party that provides delivery services. They're still connected through technology. So you still get the same end result that you get from a platform. But these are the two important differences, which is the individual activities have been done by different parties. And the technology that connects them is not a proprietary protocol. It's a public protocol that ONDC has created and made available for free for everybody. So now you have an opportunity where you can have multiple applications all on the same network, all having the same protocol. Therefore, they can all talk to each other because the protocol is identical. So because of this, now any buyer on any buyer application can place an order on any seller application, and either of them can order the delivery services from any delivery provider on any delivery provider application. So that's what essentially the network becomes. Now, this has very powerful implications. This is not simply an academic rearrangement of parts, because now it allows a much greater participation in the network. And let me explain how. So let's look at the buyer side. Any organization that has a group of people for whatever service they provide can actually become a buyer application. Today, we have two payment companies, Paytm and PhonePe, that have built a buyer application. So they have a large pool of users, but they're users for payment. They're not e-commerce users, they are payment users. But now that they have those users, the same applications have created a ONDC-based software through which now the same people can shop on the network. We have two banks, IDFC and Kotak, which have also built a buyer application. So now customers of those banks using those banks' application can also shop on the network. We have a telecom player who will soon join the network. So all the telecom users, people who have SIM cards with that telecom player and use that telecom player's application, using that application, they can shop on the network. We have a television channel that is actually going to become a buyer application. They will enable their viewers to be able to shop. So this is now no longer restricted that you must be an e-commerce company to participate in e-commerce. Right? So collectively, all of them are contributing buyers. Now, some of them have millions of buyers, some of them have a few thousand buyers. It actually does not matter. All of them collectively will create a single buyer pool. Similarly, you have other companies that provide sellers to the network. So companies, for example, that have a point of sale software. When you go to a shop and there's a computer there and they punch out a bill that they give to you as a customer, now that software knows the catalog of that shop, knows the inventory of that shop. That's where they can make the bill. When that software adopts the ONDC protocol that I mentioned earlier, then that software can talk to the network. So now a buyer, let's say on a telecom application, can buy from a seller on an accounting software application. And either of them can order logistics that is being provided by another bunch of companies. So what we have is a network where all the parts are present. There are buyers present, brought by multiple buyer applications. There are sellers present, also brought by multiple seller applications. We have delivery companies brought by multiple delivery providers. All of them are on the same network. All of them can see and talk to each other. Right? You don't have to individually integrate with anybody. Everyone can see everyone. Much like the internet, right? So internet, when we use a browser, it isn't that some browsers will show us some websites and other browsers will show us other websites. Whichever browser we use, we can see all the websites. And it does not matter where the websites were hosted. So in similar fashion, when you shop on the ONDC network through any buyer application, you will see all the sellers brought by all the parties. Sellers don't have to individually register with each buyer application, right? And that's what creates the power. So this is the conceptual idea. And in reality today, now we have 11 buyer applications which are live, collectively bringing in more than 100 million active buyers today. But as many of the new companies which are joining, we will soon have, we expect in the next few months, we will actually cross 500 million buyers as a buyer pool. And within a year, we might even be touching 1 billion shoppers. Right? That's more than any e-commerce place today has. So this is not a small network. It's not a small idea. Because it is bringing in everyone's contribution, it's actually a very, very powerful idea. Likewise, we have on the buyer side. So similarly, on the seller side, we have 50 seller applications who have now brought nearly 2 lakh sellers onto the network. So now each of the 100 million buyers, regardless of which buyer application they're on, can see each of the 1.8 lakh sellers, regardless of which seller application they're on. So anybody can now place an order on anyone. And if it's a physical product, we have 10 logistics providers who ship to all pin codes in the country. So if you want hyper-local, then some of them provide hyper-local delivery. Like you're ordering food from a restaurant, you want it in half an hour or 45 minutes, they will go pick up from the restaurant and deliver directly to your home. Or you have the intercity logistics where you're ordering from something far away, then it will be picked up from the seller's location, brought to a hub, from that hub to another city's hub. From there, eventually somebody will pick it up and delivery will come to your home. So both systems are present and now capable of delivering to 19,000 pin codes, which is pretty much the entire country. Now, that's only what's live today. We have more than 12,000 organizations which are due to join the network. More than 100 of them are in fairly advanced stages of integration. So we will see the network expand fairly quickly and fairly substantially. And as you can see, most of these organizations are actually not e-commerce companies. Some are original brands. And so we have a lot of brands which are joined the network. We have big companies like Unilever, P&G, ITC, Boat, Blue Star, Ferns and Petals. They have joined directly as brands themselves. We also have very small boutique brands, people who have set up D2C companies or very local brands. And brands can also be restaurants, right? So you have a small footprint. They have also become part of the network as themselves. So the network actually brings everyone together, whether big or small. It really does not matter what your scale of business is. So now for any seller of any kind, or actually any participant, life is very simple. All you have to do is just simply plug into the network. All the other complementary services, somebody else on the network will provide. Regardless of what piece you have contributed and what piece others have contributed, your solution can be completed. And so you don't yourself have to go out and build the solutions. Importantly, you don't have to contract somebody to build those solutions for yourself, which is very expensive. Right? The reason why when we send anything by India Post or Speed Post, the reason why it is affordable is because India Post has not been set up for us, nor are their rates specific for us. Right? India Post has been set up, for example, for the entire country. Their rates are assuming that there'll be hundreds of millions of people sending packages, and therefore the rate are on that scale. But we as an individual sender benefit from those rates because they've been built for scale. So that's how large networks help us as individuals. Also think about how networks benefit us for growth, right? We don't have to do anything. So if you had a mobile number 25 years ago, only about 2 million Indians could have called you on a mobile phone, because that's all the mobile user population was in India. Now, if you still have that same mobile number, 25 years later, nearly 1 billion Indians can call you. Look at that, 500 times growth from 2 million to a billion. Right? Now, what did you do to get 1 billion Indians to call you? Actually, nothing. You just simply kept your number. So when the network grows, your ability to reach out to more people grows automatically. You don't have to do anything. Think about all the internet businesses that started in the early part of the millennium. Now, at that time, the only people who could access internet was those who had a laptop or a computer, and they could access it on those machines. Now, after internet came on mobile phones and we've got 3G, 4G, 5G, suddenly the internet population has grown several hundredfold. So those internet businesses have grown not because they did something. It's because phone companies built internet onto phones, telecom companies reduced data rates, so people who had internet businesses automatically grew. So remember that the network allows you to grow because the network grows. Right? You don't have to invest in network growing. Now, what does this mean for people? First thing to remember is that even if you're a seller, does not mean you will only be a seller. You can also be a buyer. So let's say you're a retailer. Right? As a retailer, you could be selling to customers on the network who may be on various buyer applications. But the same thing that you are selling to customers, you can actually buy also from the network. So we have distributors of many companies also available on the network, and retailers are actually buying from distributors on ONDC and then selling to consumers on ONDC. Or some retailers are selling products, they don't have their own delivery services, so logistics or delivery services they're buying from the network. So the same entity can both sell forward and buy. You can buy your inputs, you can buy delivery services, or you can buy other services. So you can sell one set of things, buy another set of things, or if you're a trader, you can buy exactly the same thing you're selling. Obviously, you buy in bulk, but sell in a different quantity. So one is that the network allows you to play those roles. Today, we are live in multiple categories. We have food and beverages, grocery, home and kitchen items, electronics, beauty and personal care, agriculture products, health and wellness, fashion. And in terms of services, we have mobility, auto rickshaw and taxi services. We've also started business to business. So we have grocery and fashion retailers buying those products from grocery and fashion distributors. We also have B2B logistics. Financial services are coming soon. So we already have gift coupons that are live on the network. That's a financial product. Very soon we'll have insurance, mutual funds, loans also available on the network. Similarly, multiple services. So a lot of home repair services or educational services or entertainment services, we are in conversation to bring them. So this will be a single place, a single network where all products and services will be available. Now, what does it mean when that happens? So this is just one example that we will now have solutions that are not even possible in today's world. Right? So let's say I'm a person working for a company in Delhi, which actually I am. And let's say my company sends me for 1 year to Kerala. So, okay, Shireesh, go to Kerala and build the network there. Now, I need a suitcase. I need to book a flight ticket. Since I'm going to stay for a year, I want a service apartment. I also don't know the local language. I want to learn that. Today, if I have to look for and buy these 4 things, I have to go to 4 different places, 4 different experiences, 4 different journeys, 4 different checkouts. But once everything is on a single network, I will have an ONDC buyer application. There I will add suitcase to cart. I will add flight ticket to cart. I will add a service apartment with a check-in and check-out day to cart. I will have a 10-lesson Malayalam language course to cart, and I will check out. This is not even possible today because today e-commerce platforms are specialists in a particular area. And there is no e-commerce platform today which is even capable of offering everything. But once you're on a network, everything can be offered. Right? So think about what you do on the internet today because it's a network. So with the same browser, you can watch videos and get entertained. On the same browser, you can search for information and get educated. On the same browser, you will go to your bank and you do your banking and your ticketing. It's the same browser. It's one browser that is allowing you to do all these activities because it's an open network and different people are providing different services. But because the network has a common language, through a single interface, you can do everything. That will now soon happen on e-commerce where through a single interface, you can do everything. That has very powerful implications both for the buyer and for the seller. For a buyer, it gives a single platform access to all domains. You can not only access all products, all categories, you will see all sellers in every domain. Right? Just the way from a single browser, you can see all websites. Through a single shopper application, you can see all seller catalogs. So you have much wider choices. Of course, over time, today the network is still growing. It's not as big as it will be one day. But once it gets there, this will be bigger than any existing marketplace. Right? And so the differentiator will not be availability because everything is available to everyone. Differentiator will be experience. Whoever creates a better experience is the one who will win. For sellers, and I'm appreciating that many of you are here because you intend to be sellers, huge number of positive benefits. So first is you're discoverable by an entire buyer universe. Now you don't have to go and register on platform after platform after platform after platform. If you join ONDC network through any seller application today, you have more than 100 million shoppers who can find you. They're not on one application, they're on multiple applications. But for you, that does not matter, because the moment your catalog is live, any shopper on any buyer application can see you. Much like if you created a website today, any user on any browser can see you, right? You don't have to go and individually register on a browser. So first is you are discoverable by the entire buyer universe. So you have to maintain only one registration, one catalog, one presence. You only have to do this administrative work once. Second, just like with the post office example or with the BPO example, all the other services that are complementary to you are coming to you at network scale. You don't now have to negotiate individually and negotiate your own individual rates. They're coming to you at network scale, network rate. Therefore, your cost of doing business goes down, and therefore you have a much better realization from whatever consumer pays. You can choose the rules you want to operate, right? Do you want to make your product perfectly returnable, or you never want to accept returns, or you want to accept returns only on certain conditions? You can decide what works for you. You want to ship products everywhere, or you want to ship products only in a certain area, depending on what you can service or what you can't service? You decide. So now every seller can operate on terms that work for them. Right? Now, obviously, when you make very easy terms, you can get huge millions of orders, but they can be very difficult, right? So if you say, I will accept anything for return, no matter how late you return, obviously you will get lots of orders, but then that will create a financial burden. If you go to the other extreme, you say, I will never accept returns no matter what, then you will get very few orders. So each business can determine what is the right level of flexibility they want to provide so that they can afford to support it and yet not be burdened by it. You can also decide whether you can afford to wait, let's say, for a week to get your money, or you want the money first and only then you will ship. Right? So as with everything else, you can determine what works for you. You can begin with safe terms so that you are protected at low scale. Then as you want to grow, you can relax those one by one and be able to grow. So you can do it at your pace, what works for you. So you get to increase profitability, more buyers, less administrative costs, better realization, your own terms and conditions. That will make all this a much more profitable way of doing e-commerce. In addition, seller applications will provide you with data because they want you to grow. The only way seller application makes money is if you succeed and you grow. So they will share data on what all is being searched for. Right? Let's say you're a garment manufacturer. They will tell you what are all the types of garments that are being sought. Or let's say you make the garments which are being sought, but there is a new color or a new style that's in fashion, which you don't have. They can share that with you and you can make that available. So you will have access to data that will help you grow your business. You will also have access to your own consumers' information. On marketplaces, you do not know who the customer is. That information is not given to you. But now you will have access to know who your actual customer is. Literally, if you're a physical store, you would know who your customer is. Now on ONDC, also you can know who your customer is. And therefore, you can understand them better, serve them better, and use their insights to also develop your future catalogs. Your reputation is a very important tool and an asset, right? Now, reputation is created by product makers for the product and sellers for their selling services. But today, these reputations are locked inside a platform. So if you build a good reputation on one platform and you register yourself on another platform, you have to start from zero. The reputation you've built here is not available to you there, right? So you have to start from zero. But on ONDC, your reputation is linked with you. It is not linked with the platform that you're registered on. So it's always available to you. And so if you were to shift which service provider you've used to join ONDC, you still have your reputation. So it is your effort, your good services or your good product. It is your asset, right? Your effort has built it. Now it is available to you, not locked inside a platform. And lastly, one of the risks that a lot of sellers have and a lot of worry that they have is that there are thousands of people like me. And so when the platform that I join, they will see who is selling what item at what price. They will set up their own manufacturer, their own brand, and suddenly we are disintermediated. We are knocked out. On ONDC, first of all, there is no party who's doing all the business activities. Also, no party has all the data. Data is only available on the app by the party that is doing activity on the app. So when you are a seller on a seller app, only that seller app knows your data. The other seller apps don't know. The only buyer app from which somebody has bought, only they will know what you sold at that time. The other buyer applications will also not know. Okay, so data is compartmentalized to those who've actually done that business. So nobody has all the data. Nobody has all the business activities. Right? So there's no risk of disintermediation. And for those of you who are building technology products, then technology also can be scaled dramatically, because now you don't have to build the entire e-commerce solution. You can just build a plugin, and that plugin, if it is useful, can become useful for multiple parties. Let me just give you a couple of examples of plugin. There are parties that are now working on local languages. So somebody can search in whatever language they're comfortable with, but that language engine will translate that search into a common parlance. Similarly, the same engine will convert a catalog into a common parlance. So you could be sitting in Kolkata and searching in Bengali. Let's say you're looking for MTR, spices from Karnataka, and the seller has uploaded that, a retailer in Karnataka has uploaded that in Kannada. You will still be able to do transact. Now, if you build a language engine, you don't have to find sellers and bring them to the network. You don't have to find buyers to bring to the network. You don't have to build payment mechanism, nothing. All you have to do is build this engine. And if it is a good engine, all the buyer applications would love to use it. And so you can have a revenue source by becoming only a part of the e-commerce solution. So for technology companies, you have an easy way to scale without having to bring all the parts together. A little bit about what we are not. So although we are bringing everything together, ONDC itself is not an application. It's not a product. It's an infrastructure. Right? So nobody will log into ONDC to buy. Nobody will log into ONDC to sell. It's pretty much like UPI. Right? If you're making a UPI payment, you don't log into UPI. UPI is a method, right? The QR code is the protocol by which the payer and the payee are able to understand each other and money gets transferred. So just the way UPI is a protocol, ONDC is a protocol, but the actual applications are other applications, right? You might use PhonePe, Paytm, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, WhatsApp. Anybody who's embedded UPI protocol in their application is effectively a UPI application. So you use those applications, you don't UPI itself. UPI is only the method that those applications use. So with ONDC also, when you sell, you will use a seller application that is registered with ONDC. You will not be directly on ONDC. As a shopper, you will use a shopping application or a buying application registered with ONDC. You will not directly be on ONDC. Now, because ONDC has unbundled, it allows various combinations. You can decide what combination you want. So if you've placed an order, you want to go and pick it up yourself, you can do that. And in fact, ONDC allows you to shop in your neighborhood, right? On big marketplaces, you don't see your neighborhood shops, but now you can place order with multiple shops. Once they are all ready, you can yourself go and pick it all up in a single visit. You don't have to spend time browsing stores, spend doing anything. It becomes very efficient for you. If you want that model, you can create it. Or if you're ordering something from another city, you want it fast track. And if the platform currently does not have express service, you have no option. But on ONDC, if you want that fast track, you can send a fast track pickup service that can pick it up, that item, and bring it for you. So ONDC is a flexible system. It is infinite models. It is not one model. It's really up to your imagination, what combination you want to bring together. Because it is disaggregated, there is no central intermediary. Right? So if you think about the telephone network, right? If somebody calls from one telephone company's mobile number to another network, is there something in the middle? There is nothing in the middle. Any number can call any number. So it's everyone to everyone. There's nothing really in the middle. Right? So even on ONDC network, there's nothing in the middle. There is only a communication protocol that everyone uses. So there's no central intermediary. And everything we do on the basis of knowledge we bring in from the sector. So we are only about 100-member team, and we'll never be much larger than that. Now, for a 100-member team to build for all businesses across all geographies, not only India, but even abroad, is not going to be possible if we try and do it ourselves, because we won't have all the knowledge. So we keep having conversations with sector. Now, just yesterday, we did a workshop with India's leading B2B companies. And we asked them about what are the challenges they face in doing B2B businesses, and what are the things that they need from the network in order to bring their existing business. That has now created a B2B agenda for us, based on which we will go forward and do. So in this fashion, we work with the market, with the community. The structure of the network is built with their help. Our policies are built with their help. Anytime we do a change in policy, we go back to them and say, okay, here is the feedback we are getting. We are contemplating this change of policy. Is everyone agreed? If everyone is agreed, that then becomes the policy. So that's how we are operating. So who's live, right? So we have weavers live on our network. Sidbi, so many of you may be familiar, helped us get many of these artisans on the network. So we have the original Kanchivaram sari makers from Kanchipuram live on our network. We have people who build very specialty restaurants, right? So restaurants have their own USP. So this is a Jammu-based restaurant which specializes only in using local ingredients. They are live on our network. We have people who build special beauty care brands. Right? And some of them have very strong philosophies that it must be cruelty-free or SLS-free, unadulterated, personally inspected. Now, they may not be very large brands, but they're very specialty and hold a very unique promise. They are live on our network. We have people who make artisanal products, very, very traditional products. They are also live on our network. So it does not require you to be a big company to be live on our network. And no matter how small, they are seeing the benefits, right? So we have auto rickshaw and taxi services, and we're very successful in Bangalore city. For those of you who are in Bangalore would obviously know about Namayatri. And so auto rickshaw drivers are telling us that their earnings have grown, and they have absolutely no intention of going back to the traditional platforms, because on ONDC, the money is paid directly to the auto rickshaw driver. It doesn't go to a central platform, which then at some point in time will pay them. So that's a big plus for them. There is no commission, only a small subscription fee. So it's also much more affordable, right? So that's why they're very excited about Namayatri. The weavers in Kanjivaram I mentioned, they are getting lakhs of orders, right? And so they are benefiting from it. We have many self-help groups. So Kudumbushri is a group in Kerala that makes food and food processing products. In less than 6 months, they've got more than 1,000 orders, and they've been very successful. I want to play a short video. I won't play the entire video, but Mandeshi Foundation, which you may have heard of, is also a foundation that works with women entrepreneurs. They have 8 lakh women entrepreneurs that they work with, and they've brought many of those entrepreneurs onto the network. Here's the story. It's the original speaker is a Marathi speaking lady, so the words are in Marathi. We have subtitled it in Hindi, but I'll give you the gist of it after playing a bit.
नमस्कार, मी कल्पना माळी. कल्पनील नॅचरल्स या नावाने माझा लाकडी तेल घाण्याचा व्यवसाय आहे आणि गेली 4 वर्षापासून आपण या ऑइलचे प्रोडक्शन करत आहोत आणि मार्केटिंगसाठी प्रयत्न करत आहोत. परंतु माझ्या प्रोडक्टला इथं मार्केट अवेलेबल नाही आणि सध्याचे युग डिजिटलचं आहे, परंतु डिजिटलच्या माध्यमातून खूप छोट्या उद्योजकांना खर्चिक आहे. परंतु मानदेशी फाउंडेशनच्या माध्यमातून आम्हाला ONDC वरती रजिस्टर करण्यात आलं आणि यासाठी मानदेशी फाउंडेशनच्या माध्यमातून ONDC सारखा ऑनलाईनचा प्लॅटफॉर्म अवेलेबल झालेला आहे. त्यासाठी मी मानदेशी फाउंडेशन आणि ONDC यांचे मनापासून आभार मानते. मानदेशी फाउंडेशनच्या त्या ONDCच्या ऑर्डर्स येत आहेत, त्या फक्त महाराष्ट्र, मुंबई याच्यामध्येच नाही, तर आउट ऑफ स्टेट चेन्नई, कोलकाता असेल, त्याचबरोबर हैदराबाद, लखनौ यासारख्या विविध भागातून ऑर्डर्स येत आहेत. एप्रिल महिन्यापासून ते आजपर्यंत जवळजवळ 500 लिटर पर्यंत आपल्या ONDCतून ऑर्डर आलेल्या.
So basically, it's a lady in Maharashtra in a very, very small town. And so she started a business of making vegetable oils 4 years ago. And she says that I don't have a local market here and I was struggling. I did go online, but it was a struggle and it was very expensive to be in those marketplaces. But with the help of Mandeshi Foundation and ONDC, she got onto the network, and now she's not only getting orders from Maharashtra state, which is where she's based, she's getting from Hyderabad, Lucknow, Kolkata, other places as well. And that's a fairly typical story. A few bit about the organization before I round up and open to questions. So we are a private sector company. We are a category of companies called Section 8, which is not for profit. So while we are a private sector company, therefore we are shareholder funds, but there is no dividend to be paid. There is no public listing. There is no capital gains, nothing. The shareholding is effectively like a contribution or a donation, really, not like a usual investment. It was created at the behest of the Commerce Ministry. And so Minister of Commerce, Mr. Piyush Goyal, he is very, very excited about it. He talks about it. Our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has spoken about ONDC on many foundations. And the expectation is that it will democratize e-commerce, like the examples I've just shared, that no matter what scale of seller, you have a huge market that is waiting for you. We have a very powerful advisory team, people who have expertise in a lot of areas, in technology, in public sector, in finance, in retail, and they have a lot of past experience in building projects like ONDC for the country. And so they've been a very, very powerful guide for us as we've gone forward. We're a startup. We actually went live in late December 21. So we were conceived of in middle of 21. It was a few months before the first trial transaction happened by December. We were registered as a company in December itself. By March, the network was live. In April, we had the first real live transaction. And in September, we opened it up to consumers after we had expanded to cities. So today, we have more than 50,000 sellers in retail and nearly 1 lakh auto rickshaw and taxi drivers, so almost 2 lakh providers. We have sellers in 273 cities, which do orders regularly. We have 7 cities where there has been some degree of promotion to consumers, although you can buy probably where you are even today. And more than 66 lakhs products that are available on the network. And how do you join? Actually, very simple. You go to our website, ondc.org. There's a network participants tab. You can just contact any seller application. All the seller applications are listed there with their phone numbers and email ID. You can just simply contact them and become part of the network. All you have to know are three things. Whichever seller app you've joined, on that application, how do I know that an order is being placed for me? So I have to click accept. Second, once I've accepted, in how much time and how do I pack and keep it ready? Because somebody's going to pick it up. And third is, how do I know I got the money? That's all you will need to know. How do I know I have to accept an order? How do I pack it, or when do I pack it and keep it ready? And how do I know I got the money? Everything else will be taken care of by the seller network participant, the seller app, or by the network. So with that, let me now turn it over to the questions. So whatever questions you had in mind, if the presentation hasn't asked, then Sanjana, if you could just help me.
Thanks so much, Shireesh. This is really useful. I mean, and also thanks to the audience, there's a whole ton of questions that have come in. So I'll start with the most commonly asked one, which you covered right at the end, which is, let's assume I'm in the services. Somebody has asked about an education, tuition center, mutual fund, business, etc. Can you walk me through an example of how I can get listed on any of the live seller apps? What does that process look like?
So the process is actually this, right? All you have to do is contact a party. It's as easy as if you were to get, let's say, a Wi-Fi connection for home. What would you do? There are telecom providers. You will just simply contact all of them. They will all propose what their rates are. You will decide who you want to work with and just simply choose. It's as simple as that. So there are more than 50 seller network participants on our network. Just simply write to them or call them. Their phone numbers, emails are listed, and understand terms and conditions and just sign up. They will be the ones who will help digitize your catalog, digitize your inventory. They will teach you what you need to know to be able to do e-commerce. So all you've got to do is simply contact them and let them guide you through the rest of it.
Thanks. So am I right in assuming that several of these seller apps will probably have some form of hand-holding for first time?
They all do.
Yeah.
All of them do. Every single one has that. Yeah.
Perfect. So that answers a whole ton of questions around integration and acceleration. And then there's more of a tactical question around KYC, GST, and I assume it will vary from seller to seller app, but is there some broad brush you can talk to about what kind or stage of registration you need to be listed?
Right. So we have fairly limited set of network requirements. Most of what applies are laws of the country. And so in this question, two laws or two institutions are involved. One is the GST and what are the GST rules. And second is e-commerce and what are e-commerce rules. Now, GST, of course, does not require you to obtain a GST number until you've crossed a certain turnover. But e-commerce rules today require that anybody who does e-commerce must have a GST registration. So even if you're below the GST threshold for purposes of GST requirement, right? If you want to do e-commerce, you need to have a GST registration. Now, we've also shared feedback. Other parties have also given feedback. So we are anticipating that e-commerce rules will be relaxed for anybody to do business in their own state. They will not require GST registration to be on e-commerce. But we do appreciate that there are many entities who actually export. So let alone their own state, they're even doing it outside the country. Now, a GST registration would be required. The act of registration itself actually not very complicated. There are many service providers who will also help you do that. The only thing is that once you register, then you have to keep filing your GST regularly. But you also gain the benefit. You can claim input costs. So that is the law of the land. And we are working with them to make it simpler and easier. But right now, that is required. The option is that many times you can sell to an organization that is GST registered. And a lot of the artisans and handicraft artisans are actually being helped by state governments. So the UP government, for example, has a corporation called UP HDMC. So as part of the ODOP or One District, One Product program, which is there in every state, they buy from the artisans. So when there is an online order, the business entity that is responding online is UP HDMC, not the artisan. But once they've got that, then they place an order on the artisan saying that, okay, we have an order for 25 black leather shoes from Agra of this size. And then the party, through speed post, using India Post, is able to deliver. So you can have an intermediary who lends their GST for you to be able to sell. So it is your inventory, you keep it, but when an order comes, at that moment you supply. So these models are emerging to enable businesses to come.
That's very useful. So I have two connected questions that have come. in that context. So one is there are several members of clusters and federations who have joined today, like us or aggregators, etc. So like Mandeshi, who do I get in touch with if I want to bring everyone on the platform? And two, does government procurement, is GEM government procurement registered on the network?
So you have two ways of progressing. One is the network participant tab on our website and contacting the seller participants directly, regardless of what kind of a seller you are. Right? Whether you're a retailer, manufacturer, service provider, it does not matter what you sell, product or service, big or small, localized or national, or even export, it does not matter. That really is the method. What we have done is wherever seller participants specialize in certain categories, on our website, we've listed what categories they specialize in. So you can then decide who is operating in your area. So let's say you're doing food processing, then you can look at the seller participants who have worked with food processing units. Or if you're in a particular geography, you can identify who's operating in my geography and choose on that basis. The other way is you get in touch with us. Our email ID is very simple, team@ondc.org. And we can guide you towards that. But in the end, we will guide you to the network participants, even if you reached out to us, because that really is the way to sell. Now, if you have some other question, then we may be able to help answer or resolve.
I think there's a last broader theme of questions around access to finance. I know that ONDC is evolving things like sachet credit. So is there a roadmap and is there anything that you're doing more intentionally for the women sellers on the platform that you can share with us today?
So there is support coming from multiple quarters. There is support coming from organizations like SIDBI. They are looking to create a capacity to be able to reach out to rural enterprises or small enterprises and help digitize and onboard them. Now, at the moment, currently, they're looking at the enterprises that they are supporting because they have full visibility to that. Then you have the MSME ministry that has also created a fairly large fund to provide the similar services. So whoever, because it is a cost to a seller application to send somebody to a rural area, take pictures of the product, make the catalog. And so the MSME ministry is providing fund that if a seller app were to do that, then they will reimburse that seller app up to a certain amount per seller. So that's a second area of support that is coming. But that's in the onboarding part of it. If it is for ongoing business, that will take, I guess, 2 to 4 months to get started on the network. So just the way we are selling various products and services, even credit will be available as a service that can be bought on the network. So we've built the protocol, or what I call the communication language for obtaining credit that has been published, where many parties are interested in bringing that. And in fact, a lot of organizations had money, but they had no reliable way of giving it to parties that they could trust because not everybody has collateral. Right? And so how do you, let's say, loan money to a farmer who doesn't own the land? He has no collateral, but he may be growing crops efficiently. He may be doing regular trade. So when you have the business trail that is available through ONDC, that person is doing so much of sale regularly, then it becomes much more possible for a lending agency to trust that seller and say, yes, there is enough evidence to believe that they can repay back even without collateral. So the ability to do credit is coming on the network fairly soon. And because the network will have other sources of data, including for sellers to, via the account aggregator through Sahmati, share other financial information if they so choose to, then there'll be multiple ways by which they will be able to justify getting credit. And so that should become easier soon. For now, they will have to access credit the old-fashioned way.
Thank you. So we'll come back to that hopefully in our next series with you. So one of the things that we had learned is that you do provide deeper information on different sectors, so fashion, food, etc. So we're hoping we can have experts from your network back to help some of our sellers in the thematic space think through this. But I think we'd like just a last closing comment with your thoughts on two things. One is a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from sellers who've gotten on board, women sellers, is that the runway from getting on board to finding their first transaction is fairly significant. And there is, of course, impatience and uncertainty around it. So right. A little bit of visibility. What do you think about timeline, or how should they approach this? This is one, and especially in sectors that are sort of niche and in geographies that are hard to serve. And two was just a little bit around working with the seller apps itself. Like negotiation part, feedback has been that negotiation part is is often very skewed. So is there a sort of standard set of prices or guidelines across apps that you put in place already, or is it sort of changing from one seller to the next?
So seller applications appreciate the fact that pretty much like mobile number portability, you have actually seller app portability. A seller can just simply move to another seller application and continue to do business and still have access to all the buyers. So seller apps are mindful of this, and therefore, at least to the best of my knowledge, currently the terms are not exorbitant. In fact, many times seller applications are onboarding for free. They're not charging anything for onboarding. They're even accepting that until a seller hits a certain scale, they will not even charge a commission or a subscription. The Namayatri, which is doing the auto rickshaw, till now
was it's completely free. Yeah.
It was completely free. Now they've started subscription, but they don't charge subscription, and it's a daily subscription. So it's not like you pay a large sum of money. The first ride is still free. It's only when you come to the second ride that you have to pay that day's subscription fee. Right? And it's only 25 rupees. So if an auto rickshaw is going to do, let's say, 1,000 rupees of rides in a day, 25 rupees is only 2.5%. And after that, everything else that you pay, you don't have to keep paying the subscription fee. You just pay it once. So whatever else you do, it's actually coming at zero commission. So seller applications are actually recognizing the power of the network and making it easy and affordable for everyone to do business. So that's part of it. You had a question before that, the first part.
No, it was more to think about other intentional...
The promotion, getting the demand, the transfer. So first of all, there's a very important difference, which is that in the existing e-commerce marketplace, it's very hard for a seller to send customers to the marketplace and they be the ones to sell. So if I was a shop owner and I registered on a marketplace, I can't say, Sanjana, go to that e-com marketplace and you'll be able to buy from me, because when you search, you will search by product, not by seller. And you could land up on a seller in some other town, in some other state, may not land on me. So it's very risky for me to encourage my customers to go on e-commerce, and therefore I will still limit it with my physical commerce. But on ONDC, actually completely different, which is you can search by seller, and when you encourage your existing customers, you will actually be discoverable. We are just the way you have a QR code for UPI. Very soon we'll have, each seller will have their own QR code. So you can send QR code to your customers, and when they use that QR code, they will land on your catalog on ONDC network. Whichever buyer application they use, it will be your catalog. So you will not risk losing them to other sellers. So now what you can and what you should do is encourage your existing customers to buy from you on the network. The reason to do that is because if they buy on the network, then you create history on the network. Right? So let's say you're a very good seller, you get 100 orders a day, 3,000 orders a month. If you don't move them online, then only you know you're doing 3,000 orders per month. The rest of the world does not know. But if you get them, the same customers to buy, everyone, all the 100 million buyers who are live on a network today know that you are doing 3,000 orders a month. Right? That builds your reputation. And now when somebody wants to buy from you, they have much greater confidence. So first is you can bring your existing trusted relationships. That trusted relationship will help build a very good reputation, which will then help you grow. So when now somebody is searching for a product, you will be able to discover that. So the video that I showed of that lady who makes groundnut oil, right? Anybody sitting in any other city, when they look for groundnut oil, they will discover her, and they will discover that she's already done so many orders. And so we'll be able to trust that seller. What we're also building is badging. And badge is basically a validation of some kind. So one set of badge, for example, are issued by the government, which is the GI tag. Right? So if you, let's say, grow something in a particular region, you can get a GI tag for that. Or if you're building a skill that is unique to a region, right? So let's say you're doing Banarasi silk sari as a Banarasi silk maker, then you will get that GI tag, right? You can't be sitting in Surat and making a Banarasi silk. You won't get the GI tag. So GI tag is an example of a badge. So if a seller has a GI tag, then the buyer has that much more confidence. Another kind of GI tag can be an enterprise that supports. So SIDBI is planning to give a badge to all the sellers that they support, saying this is a SIDBI supported enterprise. So now when as a buyer you go, you see, okay, somebody is a Tata Trust supported enterprise, or something is a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Trust supported enterprise, right? That builds a lot more confidence that this is likely to be a stable enterprise if somebody is supporting it. So badges will be another method by which people have confidence. So these are things completely in your control. You don't have to pay anybody anything. You're not dependent on anybody anything. If you're making a good product, you have a loyal customer base, they can help you succeed. Likewise, you can, acquire the badges that are appropriate for you, and you can succeed. The other thing is that today, when you compete on a marketplace, even if you're wanting to promote, you are competing with national brands for the same, right? In the end, it's only one application, one phone has only so much space. So now as a small seller, you have only interest in a certain geography. You have no ability to spend and compete with somebody who has a several hundred or several thousand crore business and wants to appeal to the entire country. But on ONDC, now you can promote yourself. In fact, you don't even have to depend on this. You can yourself share your number locally in whatever fashion. On your own shop, you can have that signboard, or you can have your QR code instead of your number now, and people can scan that and place an order on you directly. Every package you sell can carry your online QR code. No matter which shop they're in, they can just scan that in future and place a follow-up order. So you have a much more greater ability to promote yourself, and none of what I've described costs money. Then on top of that, you can look for ways to spend money and promote. But even without spending money, there'll be lots of ways by which you can drive your own demand.
That's fantastic. I think everyone's so excited with the potential of how this can transform small businesses. And especially we get a lot of feedback of folks who've struggled to get on existing e-commerce platforms. And that's where the interest in this. So I'm going to take a stab at quickly summarizing based on the comments we got. So top 4 things. It's ideal for sellers, allows you to scale at your own pace, safely, sustainably, so you can de-risk. Seller applications want you to succeed. So you're finally in a position where you'll be enabled. And most of the time, like Shireesh said, prices are fair and transparent across systems and more or less the same. There's also robust data compartmentalization, and so that reduces the risk of disintermediation between basically all the types of products you're selling, so there's nothing to worry about. And what you need to do as someone who wants to get on the platform is, of course, get on the platform, find the seller next to you, and encourage your existing customer base to start buying. Build a history on the network. I'm sure over a period of time, it will also feed into a credit history and things like that. There's a whole ton of new things coming up. For example, the GI tag, skills unique to a region. So stay tuned is probably the best way that I would leave this session with. Any closing comments, Shireesh, and next steps that you recommend?
Yeah, so this is, there is not a huge cost or effort in becoming part, especially since the seller apps will do all the heavy lifting. And so I would encourage everyone to get started and just begin the journey. As you do it, you will learn what works, what doesn't, and you will be able to benefit. As we have seen many other artisans and craftsmen, some of the examples I shared, all of them are discovering the benefits. And you're right, everybody doesn't start getting lots of orders on day one. But becoming a part of network automatically doesn't do it, right? If I get a new SIM card in my phone, people won't call me. I have to share that number with people. That, okay, I can be reached from this number. So there will be an affordable and manageable effort that every seller can do, by which you can start growing. And the more you grow, the more your reputation builds and the more you will grow in the future. So my one-line advice is get started as soon as you can, and you will see the benefits. And we are here to help.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I think the best explanation that I got to understand ONDC in the early days was, imagine you're walking into a mall which is just being set up. The stores are getting built and the buyers are just discovering that you exist. So just play the waiting game for a little bit and you'll enjoy the rewards. Shireesh, I can't thank you enough for doing this. You were one of the most demanded sessions on WEP. So thank you so much. For all those who tuned in, for next steps, get in touch with WEP. We'll figure out how to help you in whatever capacity we can. And of course, the ONDC team is available. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks.
Thank you. Happy weekend. Bye-bye.